It is Thursday, November 15th, and this is Fox and Friends First, happening right now at 4 a.m. It is deadline day. Florida election officials scrambling to count every last ballot. But will the fight in the courts spell a win for Republicans? And back up at the border, illegal migrants climbing the fence, even taunting U.S. authorities. How the U.S. military's top dog is rallying the troops as asylum seekers make their case today.
Seriously, Carrie, give me a little. Arthur Trish.
No, I'm hormonal.
Timber Faith.
And the country music stars align in Nashville. First on this Thursday morning, I'm Heather Childers, wherever you are waking up all over America. That's a live shot of New York City for you. Well, today, the first wave of the migrant caravan expected to start requesting asylum at our southern border. Todd Cairo joins us live as White House officials rally troops, thousands of them, on the U.S.-Mexico line. Good morning, Todd.
Morning to you, Heather. About 800 migrants in the caravan are beginning to arrive in Tijuana, some actively trying to get appointments with American border officials in order to make their case for sanctuary. All this as Defense Secretary James Mattis visited the border, defending the deployment of thousands of troops there, calling it, quote, a moral and ethical mission to support our border patrolmen.
It's very clear that support to border police, our border patrol, is necessary right now.
Right now, there are close to 6,000 troops on the border, with more than 7,000 expected as the migrants get closer. The defense secretary emphasizing that he doesn't expect troops to come in direct contact with migrants, adding that the only military personnel who will be armed are military police. Mattis was joined by Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen in advance of what is expected to be 4 migrant caravans arriving in the next few weeks.
DHS has an amazing collaborative relationship with the Department of Defense, whether it's for natural disasters, whether it's for cybersecurity, whether it's for fighting the away game so that we don't have to fight the home game. And then certainly border security is national security, and we all together are taking.
And look at this. DHS putting up razor wire to prevent a repeat of migrants climbing the border fence in defiance of U.S. law. October set all-time records for illegal immigrant children and families attempting to enter the U.S. November, looking like much of the same, Heather.
All right, we're going to talk with a former ICE supervisor and former Border Patrol agent coming up with more on this. Thank you so much, Todd. Well, another Fox News alert for you that we're following. At least 59 people confirmed dead as wildfires burn across California. The Sierra fire, that's fueled by wind, scorching nearly 150 acres east of Los Angeles. And then to the north, some brand new drone video showing the devastation caused by the Camp Fire. 8,800 homes completely destroyed in the town of Paradise. National Guard troops now helping search teams comb through the debris as more than 100 people remain missing. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke touring the devastation with Jerry Brown, saying it's the worst he has ever seen. But relief is now in sight. Rain expected in parts of the state early next week. Just so devastating. Well, turning now to extreme weather, a powerful nor'easter packed with snow is headed towards the northeast, and that same storm blamed for a deadly bus crash in Mississippi, killing 2 people, and dozens more are injured after police say that the driver lost control and then flipped on an icy highway. 110 million Americans along the East Coast now bracing for the first wintry blast of the season. And it is deadline day in Florida. Counties have just hours to finish recounts as the heated battle over the U.S. Senate seat is stirring even more controversy. Griff Jenkins is in the thick of all of it. He's been there for us. He's in Broward County. Good morning, Griff. So what is the latest in terms of the recount? Will they meet the deadline or not?
Heather, they're going to meet it. The machines behind me have stopped running, and overnight celebrations with the staff here at the Broward County elections because they're just about 80 or so ballots short. They'll resume around 7 a.m. and finish that. But, you know, problems continue to plague the folks here in Broward. Yesterday, Fox News obtaining a letter from the Secretary of State of Florida to the U.S. attorneys here regarding altered cure affidavits for vote-by-mail ballots sent in 4 counties. Those counties are Santa Rosa, Citrus, Okaloosa, and, of Course, Broward. Now, it's a little complicated, but basically that was due the day before the election. The altered forms instructed voters to do it 2 days after the election, which obviously wouldn't be counted. So we asked the election supervisor, Dr. Brenda Snipes, about it. Here's the audio of what happened. Why didn't you report it to the Department of State?
Because we did not accept the affidavits. So those people, it was nothing we could do for them.
You identified it as a altering of the affidavit for vote by mail, and you took measures to ensure it didn't affect the ballot, so it protected the ballot integrity.
We did not accept them.
But since it's a crime to alter anything like this, shouldn't you still have reported it to Secretary of State?
Even if they weren't successful?
Yes, that's a good point.
So while Dr. Snipes says that no ballots were affected in this recount, we are waiting to hear from the Department of State on whether or not they will seek actions as to why Snipes did not report this activity. Meanwhile, that recount you asked me about in the beginning, up in Palm Beach County, they're still trying to get there, but it doesn't look like they may meet today's 3 p.m. deadline. Heather?
All right, and then what happens after that? Griff Jenkins, live for us. Thank you, Griff. Well, the recount that Griff was just talking about in Broward County, capturing the national spotlight, of course, but election recount monitor Richard Dinopoli says that the confusion is causing distrust in the election process.
It's a national embarrassment here in Broward County. We've had Brenda Snipes as the supervisor of elections for about 15 years now, and it's just a repetitive problems, one after another. She's faced multiple lawsuits over the years. She has illegally destroyed ballots. She has not followed the law, and there are so many irregularities in Broward County that all confidence in her is lost as a fair arbiter of, an election. And, just myself on Sunday night, an Avis employee from a rental agency at the airport contacted me and let me know that there was a provisional ballot box left in a rental car at the airport, which did contain unmarked ballots in it. So there are a lot of problems here in Broward County, and no one has any confidence in Brenda Snipes.
Well, the Broward County Elections Department says that they expect to make today's recount deadline, as we just heard Griff say. So we'll see, but possibly not Palm Beach County. Well, Michael Avenatti, the famed attorney for Stormy Daniels, denying domestic violence allegations.
I have never struck a woman. I never will strike a woman. I am looking forward to a full investigation, at which point I am confident that I will be fully exonerated.
Well, Avenatti is facing a felony charge. He posted bail last night. The attorney was arrested after a confrontation at his Los Angeles apartment with an unidentified woman. TMZ reports that her face was swollen and bruised. Retiring Senator Jeff Flake taking a last stand on Capitol Hill. He's refusing to vote for any of President Trump's judicial nominees until the Senate votes on a bill protecting the Mueller probe. Now, Senator Mitch McConnell blocked a vote on that bill on Wednesday. Flake's decision coming after the Judiciary Committee moves forward with 5 of the president's nominees. The Senate hopes to confirm 40 more before the new Congress starts in January. And an advisor to the president is out after an ongoing dispute with the First Lady. The White House says Deputy National Security Aide Mira Ricardel will move to a new role within the administration, but did not specify exactly what she'll be doing. The First Lady, Melania Trump, her office had called for her firing, or actually her removal, after the two clashed over travel issues. Well, the CMA Awards rocking the stage at Nashville, or in Nashville, I should say, overnight. Host Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood praised for leaving politics out of the joke-filled show. Stapleton was not sleeping. He was too busy accepting the most awards, including Vocalist of the Year. Casey Musgraves beating out Stapleton for Album of the Year with Golden Hour. But Keith Urban pulled off the night's biggest surprise, taking home Entertainer of the Year with a very emotional speech. Listen. Several country legends taking the stage, including Garth Brooks. Well, the time now is about 11 minutes after the top of the hour, and fatal flight. Remember the shocking incident when a woman was sucked out of a plane window at 32,000 feet? Well, the harrowing details just released on that terrifying ordeal. And defending the front line, Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis talking tough at the border as the migrant caravan closes in. And former Border Patrol agent Jason Piccolo says that caravan isn't our only problem. He explains up next.
It's when you're in a position where people are showing a lack of respect for each other elsewhere, and you and your team are holding strong, you know? Nothing can shake you. Nothing can shake you.
Well, Defense Secretary Mattis rallying the troops deployed to help secure our southern border. But the first of thousands of members of the migrant caravans already arriving in Tijuana, some climbing up the border fence and even taunting U.S. law enforcement. Here to weigh in is former ICE supervisor and Border Patrol agent Jason Piccolo. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
You know, to begin, I just want your reaction of these migrants climbing up to the top of the border wall there and taunting law enforcement officers. What was your first initial response when you saw those images?
I don't think they're part of the caravan. The caravan, if they have a legitimate asylum claim, will go to the port of entry. I believe these are just the other aliens that are trying to taunt our Border Patrol agents.
And what about Mattis's visit to the border area itself? A lot of people are saying that that's just for optics.
No, I think it's great. I'm a former Army infantry officer. I did a deployment in Iraq, and having a ground commander come out there and see what's going on to get the ground truth is imperative.
And let's listen to what Senator Jeff Flake had to say, though. He has the opposite feeling of what you're saying. Listen.
I think it's unfortunate that we have the soldiers there. You can't call it anything but a stunt here. I don't know what I could tell them other than you shouldn't be doing this. And this wasn't an issue that Congress was involved in. It was an executive decision.
So he's talking about the troops there to begin with. He's saying it's all a stunt. They don't need to be there in the first place. Do you agree?
No, we need troops there. Now, when I was in a Border Patrol, you had one agent per every 2 miles. We'd simply get overrun if there was thousands rushing the border at the same time. And I think about in the 1990s when you had hundreds and hundreds of aliens running up the 5 and 805 freeway in San Diego. That same area they're at right now. We need the military to bolster up the efforts to allow the Border Patrol agents to do their job. Now, Mattis already said right off the bat that they're not going to engage the aliens.
Well, and the other thing that Senator Flake has said, that he said the work should be handled by civilians and not military personnel.
Now, that's even worse. Look at our private prison industries right now. We're having problems with that. How are you going to train civilians to go out there and apprehend aliens? It just doesn't work.
Well, and we're not even keeping them here, or we're not even actually sending them back when they should be. Let's talk about this illegal alien accused of killing 3 people. He was a DACA recipient. We can bring his picture up. He's Luis Rodrigo Perez. He was an illegal alien from Mexico. He's accused of triple murder. He was a recipient of DACA in 2012 and 2014. He had been jailed and then was released on domestic violence charges. What can you tell us about this case?
Now, he had 3 deportable offenses, aggravated assault, and child abuse when Middlesex released him, Middlesex County, New Jersey. Now, New Jersey requires you to have a judicial warrant in order to honor an ICE detainer. That's essentially a criminal warrant. Now, you would need the U.S. Attorney's Office to honor or actually apply for criminal warrants for every illegal alien. It just doesn't work that way.
And ICE has slammed Middlesex County for this before, accusing it of being a sanctuary policy. Apparently, the Federal Immigration Agency arrested 37 criminal illegal aliens in that area just in July.
Yes, and you know, the thing about New Jersey is I believe a lot of the police would work with ICE, but they're afraid of being sued for illegally detaining an alien.
All right, Jason Piccolo, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. The time now is about 18 minutes after the top of the hour. And passing prison reform, President Trump ready to reach across the aisle and give ex-inmates a second chance. Will Democrats finally work with him instead of against him?
Johnny or June?
I'm not making the same mistake.
Keith and Nicole?
No.
Garth or Trisha?
No. I'm hormonal.
Tim or Faith?
And praised for a politics-free night. Carly Shimkus is here with reaction to country music's biggest night. Up next. Well, welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. We now know the name of the pilot killed in a crash on a U.S. Air Force base. Captain John Graziano was a 28-year-old flight instructor at Laughlin Air Base in Texas. Another instructor was rushed to the hospital but is expected to be okay. Now, it's unclear why their T-38 jet went down. It is the second deadly crash at that training base in less than a year. And do you remember this? We have some chilling new details that have just been revealed about the moment that a woman was partially sucked out of a Southwest plane. An NTSB hearing outlining the heroic efforts of flight attendants and two passengers trying to pull Jennifer Riordan to safety. A nurse on board tried giving her CPR, apparently, as the pilot safely landed that plane. Riordan died from her injuries. Now, the April incident caused by an engine fan blade that broke off and shattered a window. Well, the Country Music Awards striking a somber tone with a touching tribute to those killed in the Thousand Oaks shooting.
Tonight's show is lovingly dedicated to the 12 individuals whom we lost far too soon just a week ago tonight at the borderline in Thousand Oaks, California. Tonight, let's celebrate their lives. Let the music unite us with love and their enduring memory. So please.
But that wasn't the only major moment of the night. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 is here with social media's reaction. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Heather. So the 52nd Annual Country Music Awards could have started off in a variety of different ways, but country music's biggest stars decided to honor the lives lost at the Country Music Bar in California last week. And a lot of fans on social media really took notice of that moment and applauded the move on social media. CEM says that was a brilliant decision to start the CMA Awards with a moment of silence for the victims of the bar shooting in California. 12 wonderful souls taken from this world too soon. Now, there were also a lot of lighthearted moments courtesy of hosts Carrie Underwood and Brad Paisley. But one thing the show did not include was any mention of politics. It was a completely Trump-free show. But despite this news, some big news was still made, with Carrie Underwood revealing a certain detail that a whole lot of fans were curious about. Watch.
Remember last time when I accidentally revealed the gender of your baby? Tonight, we're going to reveal something even more exciting. Who the father is. Johnny or June?
I'm not making the same mistake.
Keith and Nicole?
No.
Garth or Trisha?
No, it's a Willie.
So she's having a Willie, which means she's having a little boy. And a lot of folks on social media thought that was cute and are also talking about the fact that it didn't include any politics. One Twitter user says the CMA Awards are proving that you can have an award show be successful without politics. It's the only award show I've watched all year, and I'm so grateful it's focused on celebrating great music and musicians. A big thank you.
Yeah, perhaps more successful if you don't include politics these days.
Yeah, everybody can enjoy it, right?
We'll see what the ratings look like.
Yes.
So let's move on to this, though. The president introducing a prison reform bill and getting broad support from both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, so we could maybe call this the Kardashian effect, because, you know, that's what Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are talking about. And the new bill that he is backing would reduce prison sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. It would also focus on rehabilitation efforts. Here's the president talking about it.
I am thrilled to announce my support for this bipartisan bill that will make our community safer and give former inmates a second chance at life after they have served their time.
At one point, the president joked, saying, "Did I hear the word bipartisan? That's a nice word." So a lot of folks on social media thanking him and applauding the move. Thank you, Mr. President, for reversing the Clinton-era crime bill that has been detrimental for so many African-American families for so many years. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, though, says that he's not 100% sure that they'll be able to vote on this bill this year because they have other priorities. So we'll see how on board he is with this whole thing.
It's being called the First Step Act, and it's the first major rewrite, though, of the nation's criminal justice sentencing laws in a generation.
Yeah.
So it's a very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so another big deal. Very big deal. KFC unveiling an apparel line.
That's right. So when fashion meets fried chicken, KFC is partnering with Nigo, I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's a high-end Japanese fashion line, and they're launching a line of clothing. This stuff might be flying off the shelves, too, because they're only going to sell it for one day, which is tomorrow at a KFC location in New York. These clothes will sell up to, I believe the highest price item is $375.
What?
Yeah, can you believe it?
What?
So get them while they're hot, Heather. Let's go tomorrow and get our
KFC
fried chicken
shirt?
hats. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carly.
Thanks a lot.
Well, the time now is about 1/2 the top of the hour. And Congress preparing for major moves as Nancy Pelosi remains confident about her retaking her seat. We're live in Washington with the new snag the former Speaker's campaign just hit. Plus, the Florida recount deadline now just hours away and the fight already moving to the courts. Former U.S. Attorney Kendall Coffey says the legal drama is just getting started. Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. The clock is ticking for Congress to pass a spending bill with just weeks until funding runs out. But the real drama is with Democrats, as more than a dozen are now speaking out to stop Nancy Pelosi from becoming Speaker. Ellison Barber is live in Washington with what comes next as the new Congress comes in. Good morning.
Hey, Heather. So about a dozen incumbent House Democrats and about half a dozen incoming Democrats are preparing a letter promising not to support Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House when a vote goes to the floor. A Democratic aide familiar with the situation told Fox News the names of 17 Democrats currently on that letter. Democrats from Ohio to New York to Colorado to South Carolina. Some Democrats who won their congressional races this cycle did so in part by promising to oppose Pelosi. Still, the party's longtime leader says she is confident she'll be the next Speaker of the House.
It's clear I'm not going to be voting for the current leader. And I believe we need change, and so I'm supporting change.
How do you feel about your chances for becoming?
I feel very good about it.
House Republicans dealt with a challenge in their ranks last night. The current number 2 California Representative Kevin McCarthy easily beat the founder of the Freedom Caucus, Representative Jim Jordan, to become the next House Minority Leader. Congress is back in session, and it's an infamous lame duck session, and lawmakers have a lot of legislation to consider, things related to health care, national security, border wall. There are legislation related to the protection of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Certainly, the biggest thing that they are going to be focused on heading into the next couple of weeks is the spending bill. They need to pass something by December 7th to keep the Department of Homeland Security running. As for Leader Pelosi, she is set to hold her weekly press conference a little later this morning. Democrats are set to vote on Speaker of House in a couple of weeks. Fox News is told that Democrats against Pelosi are still trying to get more signatures for that letter. Heather?
All right. Thank you so much. Ellison Barber keeping us up to speed about things we have forgotten are coming down the pike. Thank you. Well, with Democrats returning to power in the House next year, they've made it clear that they plan to stop the president's agenda. Republican House Whip Steve Scalise says that if Democrats choose obstruction, they will pay the price.
The Kavanaugh hearing showed that the country doesn't want that kind of obstruction. Well, look, President Trump's worked really hard to get this economy back on track, and we've worked very close with the president, and he's talked to a lot of us about the things that we want to do to keep the economy going. If they want to focus on turning back the economic growth, trying to raise taxes, they're not going to have that happen. If they want to try to just sit there and obstruct and block everything that the president wants to do and go down the impeachment road, that's not what they can't. Those members that flipped seats from Republican to Democrat campaigns saying they would do opposite of that. So if they do, they're going to pay a dear price. And ultimately, that's one of the ways we get the majority back in 2 years.
Well, freshman orientation is already underway. The 116th Congress will convene January 3rd. New overnight, Vice President Pence and Russian President Putin shaking hands at an Asian summit in Singapore. The world leaders crossing paths as the vice president addresses the summit, talking about the importance of government accountability and protesting people's rights. Vice President Pence will head to Papua New Guinea next for an Asia-Pacific summit. Pence is standing in for President Trump. Well, the Brexit secretary calling it quits. Dominic Raab stepping down hours after UK Prime Minister Theresa May announced a draft deal. He says that it threatens the integrity of the UK and is just one of several critics against the plans that will allow Britain to depart from the European Union. May will pitch her draft deal to Parliament today. A federal judge sides with Democrat Stacey Abrams as Hillary Clinton questions the legitimacy of Georgia's governor's race.
If she'd had a fair election, she already would have won.
Abrams still clinging to hope in her race against Republican Brian Kemp after a judge ordered some absentee ballots with mistakes be counted. That includes those with missing or incorrect birthdays. It's unclear how many votes might be impacted. Kemp, leads by nearly 60,000 votes. And ballots continue to be recounted as Florida counts down to today's deadline. But many are calling into question the 10-day extension given to mail-in ballots for overseas voters. So could this potentially create a problem of voter fraud? Here now to weigh in is former U.S. Attorney and South Florida lawyer Kendall Coffey. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Heather.
So what about those mail-in ballots and the irregularities? What's your take on it?
Well, I think mail-in ballots always are more susceptible to fraud or other irregularities. When people are inside the polling booths, the system's secure. They go in by themselves, and we have a high degree of confidence that they're going to vote their own votes, and the system works in that context. Mail-in ballots make it more complicated. But what's going to be really interesting to watch is if the federal judge determines to extend the time for voters to correct their mail-in ballots, their absentee ballots or provisional ballots. How is that process going to work logistically? How do they get notified? Do campaign workers become involved and contact them and re-delivering ballots which supposedly have been corrected? That part of the process not only needs to be analyzed in terms of fairness, but also whether there's any risk of fraud tainting the gathering of ballots that are apparently might be corrected.
And would it be possible to even go about that and determine if everything is being handled fairly and correctly if we get to that point?
I think the logistics are daunting, and it's going to require not only people getting the ballots, but somebody making sure that the process is handled honestly. Years ago, I handled a case involving absentee ballots. It was determined that there was systematic fraud in the collection of absentee ballots. So we all know that those kind of ballots are in the highest category of risk for fraud.
Here's what the Florida State Department General Counsel Bradley McVeigh had to say in terms of these ballot irregularities. He said altering a form in a manner that provides the incorrect date for a voter to cure a defect imposes a burden on the voter significant enough to frustrate the voter's ability to vote. And then we heard earlier at the very top of our show, Griff Jenkins, who spoke to Brenda Snipes, the Broward County Supervisor of Elections there. She says that it is good. It's a good point to note that she should have alerted the Secretary of State about altered times on documents.
Well, and that's part of the process, too, is getting all the information available as to whether there are any irregularities or fraud, getting that information to the Secretary of State, which oversees the Division of Elections, so that they can have a broad picture of what's happening. And sometimes it doesn't include any fraudulent votes being received this time, but we're always trying in Florida to make it better for next time because, heck, we're tired of getting into all these voting controversies every few years.
Yeah, you would think at some point you realize we're always hearing about Florida. As Florida races toward the recount deadline, could more key legal battles play out? What legal recourse do the losers have in this as well?
Well, the biggest battle that I see right now in terms of anything that could change the number of votes coming in is whether the thousands of votes where they don't have a valid signature match, whether there's a process to allow those voters to basically correct it or fix it. That could add a few thousands, But the statistics show it may be equally divided among Republican and Democrats, so maybe no net gain. The big issue is going to be, as we go forward in the recount, Broward County. 25,000 undervotes. Was that ballot design, or was it markings made by voters that can be recovered through a manual recount process? And then at the end of all this, Heather, we recall from 18 years ago, any party that loses an election has a chance to bring an election contest under Florida statutes. That requires a lot of proof of irregularity, and there's no indication so far that anyone is thinking in that direction. But this is Florida. Anything's possible. So 10 days after the elections are certified, we'll find out if there are going to be any additional litigations brought to challenge those results.
Should Brenda Snipes keep her job?
I think Brenda Snipes is looking at concluding her career. No one on the Democratic side thinks she's really corrupt, but a lot of people think it's time for her to move on.
All right. Kendall Coffey joining us live this morning. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
All right. Deadline day. We'll see. Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour, and the DOJ siding with President Trump, saying that he did not break the law by appointing Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. But that decision not sitting so well with certain lawmakers, how they're responding this morning. Plus, the White House Christmas tree is on its way. The Cinderella story behind it that will make your morning. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends First. The Justice Department backing the president's pick for Attorney General. Matt Whitaker will oversee the Russia probe, something that he has criticized in the past. Outgoing Senator Jeff Flake now threatening to block judicial nominees until the Senate can protect the investigation. Well, Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has all the details.
The 20-page Justice Department legal opinion backs President Trump's appointment of Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Relying on the Federal Vacancies Reform Act and past precedent, the Office of Legal Counsel found Senate confirmation is not required if the appointment is temporary. The constitutionality of Mr. Whitaker's designation is supported by Supreme Court precedent, by acts of Congress, and by countless examples of executive practice. Under the Justice Department's succession statute, the acting attorney general's job falls to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who until recently oversaw the special counsel Robert Mueller probe. The Office of Legal Counsel found the president may use the Vacancies Reform Act as an alternative, which was recognized and used by Presidents Bush and Obama. On Capitol Hill, attention turned to the impact on special counsel Mueller.
We want to make sure that the acting attorney general does not interfere with the Mueller investigation, and we believe our Republican colleagues will join us.
We know how the president feels about the Mueller investigation, but he's never said he wants to shut it down. I've never heard anybody down there say they want to shut it down.
Before the midterms, Rosenstein was under scrutiny over allegations he discussed secretly recording the president in May 2017 and removing him from office. A Republican House chairman says they still want Rosenstein under oath for a transcribed interview before the Democrats take over.
We're working very hard right now as we speak to get that done.
So you're working with the Justice Department?
We're working with a number of people.
On protecting the Mueller investigation, outgoing Republican Senator Jeff Flake says he will oppose the president's judicial nominees until legislation is brought to the full Senate for a vote. The senator's threat complicates Republican efforts to move the president's nominees forward by the end of the year. In Washington, Catherine Herridge, Fox News.
From Washington to Arizona, Arizona's Senator-elect Kyrsten Sinema appears to have a change of heart about the border wall. When asked if she would be willing to work with Republicans, the Democrat telling the Daily Caller, quote, "I'll work with anyone on anything." Last year, Sinema issued a statement saying, quote, "The wall is a waste of taxpayer money that will not ever be built and won't keep us safe." President Trump will decide on the fate of his Homeland Security Secretary shortly. He tells the Daily Caller that he hasn't made a decision on Kirstjen Nielsen amid reports that he wants to replace her in favor of someone who will be stronger on immigration reform. According to the Washington... Well, the time now is about 10 minutes until the top of the hour, and Michelle Obama says that she broke down in tears following President Trump's inauguration. What else the former First Lady just revealed.
Probably the greatest economy we've ever had.
And President Trump making good on another campaign promise, and he's got new American millionaires to prove it. Welcome back. A federal judge ordering Hillary Clinton to answer some questions about her emails. According to Judicial Watch, Clinton must now respond under oath to some key concerns over how she set up her email system. She has 30 days to meet that request. Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State, you of course know, has long been the subject of controversy. Well, former First Lady Michelle Obama opening up about the moment she left the White House. Obama telling Oprah during the first stop on her new book tour, quote, "When I got on the plane, I think I sobbed for 30 minutes, and I think it was just the release of 8 years of trying to do everything perfectly." Obama did not criticize President Trump at the Chicago event, although she does call him, quote, "loud and reckless" in her book, which is called Becoming. We're not sure if she references this, though, but Americans are cashing in on the booming economy as President Trump puts America first. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with how hundreds of thousands of people just became millionaires. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, Heather. Yes, according to Credit Suisse's Global Wealth Report, the number of millionaires in the U.S. has grown over the last 12 months. According to the report, 878,000 more millionaires were added, thanks in large part to the strong economy, the tax cuts. To put it in some perspective, there were 42.2 million millionaires worldwide. That number also up by about 2.3 million over the past 12 months. The report also showed that U.S. wealth grew by 6.5% as well.
Yeah, and wealth inequality is no longer rising. So that's a good thing as well. Let's talk about something I'm not sure if this is a good thing. Sour Patch Kids cereal.
Yes, Sour Patch Kids cereal, your favorite candy, turning into a cereal now. It will soon be sold exclusively at Walmart starting on December 26th. Yeah, that sour little candy turned into rainbow-colored cereal. I'm not sure how it's going to taste, the sour mixed in with the milk, but I'm sure the kids will love it.
Yeah, so it would make it taste like sour milk.
Well, the box says sour then sweet, so I don't know how that works out with the milk and.
Well, we'll have to try it.
Okay.
Maybe.
We'll get a box.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, let's talk about this. Cool story here. This year's White House Christmas tree is now on its way to Washington. Now, the 19-foot Fraser fir, it was chosen from a farm in North Carolina. But here's the thing. The farmer, Larry Smith, says he actually abandoned the tree a few years ago after it struggled to grow. Smith will present the tree to First Lady Melania Trump on Monday. So grow it did, and now it's going to be at the White House. Well, the time now is about 6 minutes until the top of the hour. And hey, barktender. Meet the sneaky beer-swilling dog. Get it? Barktender? This dog actually just became a viral sensation this morning. We'll tell you why.